I'd like to start with a quote from your presentation. You said those who don't know the culture who don't master the culture, shouldn't speak about it. Shouldn't speak about it meaning portraying artifacts, portraying cultural objects beyond the borders of your country, in Europe, in Germany, specifically in the Ethnological Museum. Does this mean there are people speaking for the culture who are not mastering it?
Yes, I can say it like that. And the missionary have brought here things, and they try to present them as something they have discovered from them, and as have made conference on them. Speed and Westerman, for instance, was even called professor of Ewe culture, but all that things. Now, I am just a small boy, but I can see, based on my education, how they have changed things, because there is a problem. When I come here and I want to speak about civilization in the German meaning, I can just put word like that, but someone who have been educated in that culture is able to tell more about it than me, and that's what I can tell. Also, I can say there were a manipulation of the information, because some missionaries have worked of our Ewe fathers and mothers, but misunderstanding or manipulation of information.
So possible misunderstandings or manipulations. Coming to you, Caroline, if we look at these different forms of interpretation of the meaning of the cultural facts which have been displayed in Germany or in Europe as such, how do you feel, or how should the community, the local community, be engaged in displaying the right information about the artifacts which are displayed here in Europe?
Yeah, that can only be done through sharing. The point is, as he said, the question of Mary, for example, that they were different, they had different meaning. So if you take some few pieces, the rest maybe cannot be known to the rest of the members of the community, especially the young generation. It is similar to all these African communities whereby the things were taken. For example, in some of the museums, you might find they've taken maybe 50 pieces from the palace, and maybe they were the only pieces in that community. That means even your grandma cannot talk about it, because one talks about something which is seen there, and will educate you that it was used for this, for that. Even the picture is not there, the object is not there. So killing the culture can be regarded as the missing of those objects in some areas. Yeah.
And from killing the culture, we go to even killing a religion, or killing the faith and the spirit of the Nzo people in Cameroon. How has the missing of the Nzo statue affected the custom and the religious practice of your people?
Thank you. I'll just borrow what the other speaker said the other time, most of all these sacred objects from foundation. Our forefathers spoke words to these objects. They've been consecrated. And now, if we, in my presentation, I talked about the Ngonso celebration, the Ngonso cultural festival. We celebrate this festival in remembrance of our founder, the founder of the Nsot dynasty. And now a statue has been built by our forefathers, by our ancestors. What have been spoken to these statues? They've been consecrated. And now we perform sacrifices in the land of our ancestors and in the name of these particular statues because it represents us. But now, how do we do this in the absence of something that has already been kept to identify our culture? It's impossible. But now it is lying somewhere. And the people where the thing is lying, they cannot make good use of what that thing has been produced for. That is what we are talking here. And that is why you could hear the people crying every day they are celebrating their festival. Yeah, why is it in a foreign land? Children of nowadays, that is something that was taken, estimated 1900 to 1910, taken away from the land. How do you expect children of nowadays to explain it? What can we explain to them? But they know that we need it. And we carry out the celebration, the festivals, in remembrance of something that is not there.
And Steve, I would like to address this question to you. How far has the process been going on the restitution of the Ngoso statue? How is the conversation with the German government for now? Is there any will of giving that figure back?
Thanks very much. There is a lot that has been going on, but unfortunately it's not progressing very well as we would have wanted. Both the Nsot people and the Ministry of Culture are worried, and early this January, we had a meeting on how we could fortify the team that is here so that the Ngoso statue is brought back. Because as you know, the African leaders, traditional leaders, are not just leaders, but they are divine and a link to the ancestors. And usually, they need to perform sacrifices before we have rain, before they increase productivity. And when those statues are out, it is difficult, and sometimes people fault the leader, who we call the fund, because proper sacrifices were not done. And we'll really be pleased if that is accelerated. For now, the progress is still very slow, really slow, and people are really worried back home in Cameroon why things are going wrong. There's low yield, there's conflict in the society, and they are linking that conflict to the absence of consult.
Thank you. With a quick look to the time, I will just ask our people here, our guests, if there are already questions, which I'll be happy to take. I see one there.
Hello, I'm Mitawi from Tanzania. As far as belief is concerned, I have very good background. I've been in primary school, it was a Muslim school. Secondary school was government. University, it was a Marxist. But these things made me really, at least to interpret religion and belief in a way that using all this background. I'm sitting here with my friend from Songea. He knows very well the missionaries. How was the missionary in Songea? Paramio, for example. The missionary which went to Paramio consisted of a sister, a priest, politician, geologist, and a military man. If you see this composition, you can really see why the missionary went into Songea. Of course, in general, they say that it was a civilization mission. Civilization against the beliefs and culture of Africans. Sometimes I see that enslavement of the African. You take them away from their culture, and whenever you interfere with culture, you also stop the development of that place. I'm coming from Tanzania, and they have a place which is called Kilwa. In the 13th century, Kilwa was very much developed.
May I ask you to get to the point of your question?
Yeah, referring to my brother of Cameroon talking about the missionaries forcing things, I quite agree with him that there is a big element of force used by using missionary in Africa. That is what I wanted to say.
Thank you. So that was a comment then. Are there any further questions for now? No? Then, Caroline, I would like to come to the Olduvai stone chopping tool and also the fossil of the dinosaur here in the Naturkunde Museum. These are very well-known artifacts as in Europe and in Great Britain. Do the people of Tanzania know that these fossils exist, that they are portrayed here in Germany? And is it a discussion of the people who know the museum industry, I would call it, or is it a claim of the population itself as well to get these fossils back?
Thank you. What I can say, the reply to your question is yes and no to a certain extent. The point is, as I earlier mentioned, people regarded museum in earlier days that it's a place whereby you go there to get certain kind of education, to know something about the world, and most of the time these are past things, and maybe they're not of value these days. But for those who know what is the meaning per se of the museum, they understand that through the museum you get a lot. So what we are having right now in Tanzania is a different a level of understanding as far as museums are concerned. But people are aware that there is a fossil of dinosaur, and some of them think that maybe is a flesh of that dinosaur, which is in a Naturkunde Museum. At times, they claim for that dinosaur to be brought back, especially within these 5 years. At times, they even say we are not going to participate in any development campaign for A, B, C, and D unless our dinosaur is brought back. And then we sit down and discuss and inform them what is there. It's not the dinosaur like a dinosaur, but it's a mere fossil. The government has already started discussion on how, apart from, there is one thing which is to be known in this arena, and that is whatever is under the government protection is protected even in law. So when it is protected in law, you cannot come and say that I need it, you have to follow certain procedures. But again, there's some conventions whereby most of the parties give excuse that I'm not party to this convention. And while we have conventions whereby even if you're not party to, you're obliged morally to support what is in that convention. So we are using all those for us. We are going now with the need to have sharing those benefits which they get. Because again, under international principles, if you ask for certain object to be brought to your place, you have to assure the international community that that object will stay in the same stage. That means it will be able to be seen. And of course, to prove to your community that whatever amount you're going to use to bring back that object, they are going to benefit. So with that, we have to have a dialogue. Some of the things, yes, they can still remain with you. And for us, we need the expertise of keeping those things so that when the time reaches for those things to come back to our land, we'll have our own experts on that. This is what is happening with the dinosaur, but with other objects. Excuse before was that you don't have enough space in your museum to keep these artifacts. But right now, we have a very, very big museum, the House of Culture, which is empty. We need some of the things to fill those shelves.
And talking about sharing the benefits, you also mentioned the access to all the artifacts and to all the figures which are stored, for example, here in Germany in the Ethnological Museum. Some not really known, the provenance not known at all from some of these artifacts. I was just thinking about a global archive. Is that a possibility? Is that something which you would actually fight for in order to access the have access to the information of the storage of the Ethnological Museum, for example?
That will be number two. Number one is the country of origin, to be aware of what is there. People of that community should understand these are the things which are in maybe Germany or Britain. But again, if you have 2, 3 pieces, why can't you give us the 2 pieces so that we can also have them there and talk about it? Because not everybody can be able to know or to come and see them. Because seeing something original is different from seeing the replica. As you heard, Nefertiti, they are talking of giving them replica. Bronx replica. I said, no. With us, dinosaur replica. No, there are some of the boxes not yet opened. Give us of our size, which you can keep in our museum. This is what we are looking for.
Kat, I would like to go to the video you showed us. What exactly did we see during the procedure? We saw a man wearing a mask. We saw a man being painted in white. Is it just me, or does the white signify something else in this case? And do these procedures also take place in the diaspora, or is it very specific to your region in Cameroon?
I will really say it is specific in what I showed to you people of our own culture. That is part of our culture. Those are masquerades, yeah, and really. And we don't go deep into explaining what masquerades are, but that is just part of our culture, as I can say. And it takes place also here in Europe as well, because I forgot to actually mention in my presentation that we also here residing in Europe celebrate the Ngonso Cultural Festival as the other people back home are celebrating. The other people from who are in the United States of America, they celebrate also the Ngonso Cultural Festival. Even those residing in Asia, it is celebrated all over the whole world. Then you can see the magnitude of people that celebrate this festival at once. And the celebration is always like that. You will see this masquerade dance everywhere. Even our children that are born here, even in Berlin, they are already celebrating, and they can actually perform this same dance if you visit us in one of our cultural jamborees. Yeah.
And if we are dreaming, what would happen if the Ngonso figure would be restituted? Would it be a mark in the celebration of the religion itself? Is there a date for the restitution of this statue? What would happen?
Well, I think the day of the restoration, if it happens, that will be at least one of the greatest days in the history of the Nso people. Nso land, as I said in my presentation, will never be the same again. Yeah, like my brother, Mr. Stephen, said the other time, he actually elaborated on the importance of these artifacts in our community. So it is almost like we enter into another new generation. Yeah, we are awakened from sleep, because I can say our culture is now asleep without the Ngonso. So then you can imagine if Ngonso is restored back home, then we are being awakened from sleep. Yeah.
Mr. Toffa, the religion is still asleep, the culture is still asleep. Would you say that was parallel to what to your presentation intended by the colonial masters at that time? Would you put that in the same context?
Religious objects have been taken away because they have been considered to be bad. In my case, for instance, the local people have started talking about that object bad. And so, but the European missionaries, the German missionaries, have seen in that object a maturity of creation. And a good ideas. Some of them take them and brought them here as you can see here in museum here the whole Legba, who was a very important god of the Ewe, and they take it and bring it away. What can I say? Objects which have been taken away should go back, because when I say Mawussé is my protector, and I cannot have an image of that and do the sacrifice I should do for him, I am not living, I am dying. And the Ewe today, they just say Mawu, 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 without no reference to what they are saying. And if you go to the Ewe, one Ewe today, and you tell him that word, what is his meaning, he cannot tell you what it does mean for him, because he just take it like the missionary put it there. For me, in my country, for instance, they say we don't have political stability to bring things back. And I want to say here, even we don't have political stability in our countries, the German, the European can help us have political stability. They can create those museums in Togo, protect them, and make of them a big touristic area of the world. I want that German come back to our country and see how those objects who were stolen have been adored, because people from Togo can explain more about that object than people in Germany. Definitely, they should be back, and we can have a good feast.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have additional point on objects which are to be returned back. What we should ask is the object to be returned without conditions, and conditional return. Because at times one can return your object and say that I donated to you. It's a donation. You stole it, and now you are bringing it back to me, and you call it donation. And at times we are bound to accept the word donation because it's one of the agreement to finish the matter. But legally, if the person says, I donated and not return, that means you cannot tomorrow take the person back to court for stealing. So at times those words have certain meaning, but again, you should put your case there for putting the full story that this was stolen and found at that museum, and that museum returned it this day. Whether it is a donation or those words will interpret the real case. That's number one. And number two, they can say it is still belongs to us. The ownership is with us, but you are only the possessor. That one is bad, because if you possess something, that means you don't have ownership. You have no right to do anything to that object. It's not yours. It's not yours. So please, when they return something, make sure what is written there if it is a dangerous as far as interpretation is concerned, especially on the question of ownership, choose the right word. Thank you.
And to add to what Mr. Toffa just said, would you agree on this collaboration of Germans bringing the artifacts to Togo, to Tanzania, to Cameroon, for example, and displaying them on behalf of the local government?
For us, we have our National Museum. Then why? This is a different as managing the hotel. But when it comes to our cultural property, we have authorities which can deal with them. The communities are also there. So will that be lending to us? Again, whose ownership? Thank you.
And Stephen, to get back to you again, talking about the Ngosa statue as we've done this evening, are there any other artifacts or religious artifacts which have been stolen and which have a similar meaning or which are part of the religious custom as well?
Yeah, really, there are so many that have been stolen, but our main focus is on the Ngosa, because Ngosa, as he presented, is the foundress of the Nso people. And every year we celebrate, and as you could see from the videos, more than 20,000 people gather in the palace to celebrate every year. And if that one is brought back, I know there are many all over the world. There are some in the US, some in the UK, but we want to focus on this one first because it symbolizes the life of the Nso people. And to let you know that Nso is one of the biggest tribes in Cameroon. We are nearly about 1.2 million people all over the world. And every year it's celebrated all over, and people living from different countries to come, and then tourists coming. And the population you saw there is just a very little population. As I said, at least more than 20 to 50,000 people gather every day, and for 1 week, celebrating. It's not just one day. They celebrate for 1 week. So our intention actually is to put more force. We join with the Nso people, join with the government, or the Ministry of Culture, and then we do everything to bring the Ngonso back. And when it's brought back, we can start thinking about the rest.
And as you mentioned the diaspora, do you work together as Nso people from Cameroon, from Germany? Is there an intent to address the different governments as a whole group?
Yeah, really. Like I'm here, two of us are from Cameroon. We just came just to add more flesh to the team here, and they are leading the team here that is following it. And we drove all the way, flew all the way from Cameroon, just because we wanted to come and participate in this forum. Mm-hmm.
So what are your next steps? You say there's been an advancement in this issue. What are you going to do next when you get back home?
Yes, the first thing we are doing is we're already preparing the museum, and the government wants to support us, reinforce the museum, so that while the team here is following up, we are sure that when ever the Ngonso statue is coming, it will have a place to be. And most of the difficulties that the team here is facing, we try to send them more information because there's quite a lot of information. There's a lot of mobilization now, and before I left Cameroon, there are so many people that are bringing a lot of evidence to furnish them so that they can justify our case, because they pose them so many questions. So when I go back now, as the president of the Nso People's Cultural Development Organization, we have created a team. As I go back now, we are going to gather all the information that they need in order to fight the cause.
Have you been doing that with the Ethnological Museum here as well? Are they aware of your attempts?
Yes, he is heading the team here in Germany. that is following up. And as they are following up, they are giving information back to us because I think as of last year, early this year, they sent quite a good number of things that we should see how to furnish them. You know, as he was presenting, most of the information is just passed down. There's nothing written down. So that is one of the problems that they face because most of the things in African culture, even up to now, are not written down and they are passed on. So picking up evidence to furnish, sometimes it takes a lot of time. And but the good thing is that being here and following all the discussion, I think is going to orientate us and we see how to fast track and provide all the information.
And Mr. Gat, the Berlin team, were you able to enter the archive of the Ethnological Museum? Were you able to have a glance at what is stored there?
Actually, I had to book a special appointment through some other special people because, as I mentioned in my presentation, right now, Ngonso is not more in exhibition in the museum. It is now in the basement, in the storehouse. So it is like the museum already realized that we are fighting for its repatriation back home, and they don't put it in exhibition any longer. So I asked them actually the reason for it not being in exhibition that the museum could not actually explain to me. Yeah, so I am still we are still looking for another strategy again now to see how it can be recovered from the basement. Yeah, but as of now, I think this is going to be now another stepping stone to actually see how we can actually fortify our work against it's coming from the basement right to the museum and maybe back home. Yeah.
Right from the basement, the in Gonzo, isn't that an insult also as well? I mean, we've talked about the meaning that this statue is missing in your country, but the fact that it's not even displayed here, talking about the provenance or leaving that question aside, just the pure fact that this statue is not betrayed, that people can't even access it here in Germany, isn't that putting a special insult on the stealing of this statue itself?
Actually, the fact that it is not in exhibition, as I told you, that is the museum problem. I don't really know. But the fact that it is here in Germany and not back home, yeah, I can say it's a taboo. Yeah, because we already explained the necessity of the statue to our people, to our community as a whole. Yeah, so now, how does it get back home? That has always been the question.
And is there also pressure from the Nkonsop people in Cameroon itself towards the Cameroon government that they should engage more in this issue?
Yeah, like he already said, they are already trying to see how they can put diplomatic strategies into position to actually see what the government can do. And I think before the government does something also, and we also who are here, like myself, yeah, and also with the help of the Berlin Colonial, yeah, we've been working together to try to see what we can also do. Yeah, I think we have to actually because they don't actually have the information, like we said. All information about most of these African artifacts, history is oral tradition. Yeah, there is no information that at least is formal, kept in files or at least, and the government would always like to have most of those things. Yeah, so it takes us also time to actually provide the government with the basic information. But from one of my research, I came to realize that in the German colonial blood, like in my presentation, I said, of 1909, there is a great information of those artifacts that were looted from Sok Palace. It was not only the Ngonso. So many artifacts were looted. I went to the museum, I saw so many things from my tribe. Yes. But the problem at hand is some of those things, we really need them as well. But the Ngonso is the most essential because it has a great significance to the community. Some of those artifacts, okay, maybe they've forgotten about them because they don't have a record of them as well. But sometimes I tend to ask people again, when they say, because I try to have some interview with some people in the museum as well, when they ask me questions, okay, we are afraid that if we take the Ngonso back, maybe you people will not protect it and blah, blah. I said, what are you telling me? That is something that was built in the 18th century and this is the 21st century. And we still have artifacts of the 17th century in our place. They've not been destroyed. Then you are telling me that if you take it back, we won't protect it. How? Yes. Our problem is bring the article back to us. It belongs to us. That is the problem. Yes. Bring it back to us. It is not your concern how we protect the artifact. No. Because we have artifacts of 18th century. They are there in the palace. They didn't succeed to steal them. Yes. But these ones, they want to claim that they are the best people that can protect them. No, we say no. We can as well protect them more than them. That is why they came to us, because they didn't have anything. Yes, so bring it back to us. We will protect it.
Karen?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
May I ask Caroline Mchome a question? So you mentioned in your lecture the ICOM, so the ICOM, the Code of Ethics. When I read the ICOM Code of Ethics, so there are very generalizing words in it, so they are only advices how to keep things going. What is yours? Do you think that this is the right, so the UNESCO and the ICOM, do you think that these are the right tools for keeping cultures alive, or don't disappear or being destroyed?
Yeah, thank you. In Tanzania, we are following what is in the common law as far as legal issues are concerned. We have international instrument also, and for those which we are party to it, for example, the conventions which we are signatories, we adhere what is there, but yet those are not surpassing what is in our domestic laws. So, in this matter, for example, the matter of Makonde Mask, that is a moving object. So, we based on what we have as far as movable objects are concerned. It is already in the foreign land, but it was stolen in our land, and we followed and exhausted all the legal procedures, even at international level. They made a defense that this one is protected under Swiss law because it is already in Swiss. But the movement to Swiss did not follow any acceptable international procedure. Produce the receipt that you bought this in auction in Paris. They didn't produce, they failed to do so. But they also adhered to international instrument like a code of ethics by putting it in shelf after being informed that this one was not possessed legally, as it happened to the consul. That's per ICOM. When one says that there is a problem in obtaining this object, you should have to put it in the shelf. That's step one, and then continue with whatever debate. So, with your question, yes, at times, those are of help when it comes to diplomatic steps. But that does not stop us to use the laws of the land as far as our objects are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would first like to make a remark. I understand when you talk about religious artifacts that has been stolen away from the continent to the former colonial metropoles. I mean, the restitution processes are different. Should be different than those other artifacts that has no religious linkage. For this, I just want to have a question on that aspect, because so far we all agree that colonial regime is based on profit, all right? Colonialism did not happen just for any benevolent or good, but to enrich the colonial metropoles. And the same thing is continuing in the refusal of restituting the artifacts stolen. So is there, or could there be any way to talk about dividends as long as the artifacts are here, being exhibited, generating income for the colonial metropoles? Because I hear the same debate everywhere from any colonial metropole. If you go to Paris, artifacts that are being exhibited there are being refused to be restituted because of the same arguments the Germans will push forward, like the British will push forward, and so on and so on. So maybe we should bring up a different narrative, talk about money, right? So is there any possibility to switch the debate to that level? That would be my question. Thank you.
Caroline, is it going to help to talk about money?
Thank you. When you talk of benefits, yes, I talked about tangible and intangible. Tangible being something like money. But again, we should also think of other benefits apart from cash money per se, because money can come in different forms. For example, if we discuss with maybe Naturkunde Museum, can we bring 2 students, PhD students, in that institution to learn about whatever on a dinosaur, and to be full funded by the institution? That is also money and the skills per se. And that is again good for preparation in our country if we start having the display of dinosaurs back home. So at times, people become more sensitive if you want to cut a share of what they get, and always they don't tell you the truth. It is very difficult, especially with the museum in Germany, to know how much do they get per year as far as entrance fee or exhibition is concerned. With the British Museum, they're just proud saying that we don't ask for any interest to see the museum, but there are a lot of exhibitions there. In addition to that, donations. The person cannot donate without having certain benefit on it. So that amount of money, at times they announce how much they get, and you see it's a lot of money. So somehow it's good to sit down and discuss openly, calling a spade, and in that way we can win.
Yeah, I think when the artifacts in particular, there are different artifacts. We have different cultures and different artifacts with different uses. Like, for instance, for us, the Ngonso, we can never negotiate Ngonso, even if it means rebuilding the whole of Nso to become like Europe. We can never negotiate it. It's unnegotiable in terms of money. Yeah, depending on its use to the community. As well as other artifacts, like for instance, I mentioned in my presentation about other artifacts that were being looted from the palace. Yeah, they are there in the museum. We've not even started anything about them. But as for something like the Ngonso, we can never negotiate it in terms of money. It must be brought back.
I have a question. Who stole the statue and why did the person do it and when?
The Inconsort statue?
Okay, that's a very good question. Who stole the statue? That is the question so many people ask. Because in the museum also, I try to know from the museum how the statue happened to get itself into the museum. And the information I gathered from the museum is the statue was brought to Germany in 1903 by von Pavel. That was the only information they gave me. So, but sometimes along in due course, trying to explain certain things about most of those artifacts, they told me that sometimes some of those artifacts were not directly from Cameroon brought to the museum. Some were maybe taken to other museums or taken to for private ownership and were later on brought to the museum, maybe by old people who could no longer withstand. So there are some of those artifacts too that at least people try to own them as individuals and they realize that it could not work because they have certain powers too. So the best thing for them to do is just to surrender them to the museum. Yeah, because there are artifacts in the museum too that even the people working in the museum, they are even afraid to touch them. Yeah, I realize it. So who brought it to the museum? Sometimes they cannot even explain to you. As for the Ngonso in particular, because it came from history, it is said that Germans had a kind of war. There was a war breakout between the German colonial masters and the Nso people, and the founder of Nso was killed in the war. And within that period, the palace was looted of most of all those essential artifacts, and the Ngonso was taken along. Nobody can give an account of all that was being looted. So, and who in particular took it, nobody knows.
So one last comment from you guys, just one sentence as your main demand. As we just heard, at least these are the demands which have to be addressed towards politics here.
Yeah, thanks very much. I think as a take-home question or comment, we really want our Ngonso back because it's a symbol, and our Ngonso statue is just like a heart, and we want it back.
I want to say something about what you have said. The German say, you African, you Cameroonian, you cannot protect Ngonzo. And it is for me a bad answer because Ngonzo is a religious object, and those who are supposed to protect them are those whom it belongs to. And I say every time in colonialism, there is a peaceful word. It is, we need each other. And when they take our object, the object from Africa here, it is because they see in them an intellectual capacity to create. So stop saying Africa people are not silly. It must change. Thank you.
One last sentence.
Thank you. On my part, the last message to give is that we know the value of the cultural objects which are outside the country of origin. And again, we need to share information of what is there, because these things were taken not in harmony, and it's a long time ago. As I said previously, there are things which our forefathers cannot talk about because they don't see them. And maybe if we see them today and ask them, because these things are well documented here. This is from Doe tribe, and we look for a Doe elder and ask what was this all about. So we need that kind of sharing, and some objects, a number of them, because a number of them are not displayed, almost 90%. Can we have them back so that we can put in our museums? Thank you.
Thank you. I really just want to say, if we want to really preach about an end to colonialism, then let us actually address these things positively. Bring them to table, repatriate those things to their various destinations. Let's know that those people need them. That is why they are crying. They may not cry it in a violent way because we don't want violence. We just want to cry it so that we put things to dialogue. Let's dialogue over them and repatriate them to their various destinations, because those people who own those things, they desperately need them. Thank you.